Okay, can someone volunteer, please, to monitor Piazza for me? I request the following. Hello. I recently posted a note to Piazza saying, providing the details about this broadcast. Please advise the people on Piazza that if they have questions, they should post their questions to that note. Does that make sense? And then whoever the volunteer is, who I gratefully appreciate, will occasionally interrupt me and say, there's a question. I think you're volunteering. You're smiling. Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay. Hello there. We're here live in Atlanta with Georgia Tech. Okay, everybody who's here live, wave at TV land. Awesome. And make sure I got my camera set up properly. Okay. So today I'm going to cover the next project, which is to build a market simulator. Now, because you're listening to this lecture and because you are here in person, I am at the end going to reveal a secret to you that will garner you an extra point on this assignment. And only those who watch this video or are here in person will know that secret information. I'm not going to mention it online in any way. We will discover when the autograder starts happening, well, when the project is actually graded, not the Buffett autograder, that some people will get an extra little bonus point because they paid attention, and others won't. And Dave, what do you predict will happen then? We'll say it's all Dave's fault. I can't predict. Yeah, okay. My fault. Okay, so the point of today's lecture is to go over this next project, which is create a market simulator. I'm going to call up the web page for that so I can consult it myself. So I'm looking at the wiki for MC2 Project 1, and I'm going to talk about some of the aspects of it. The key things are for your assignment is what comes in is an orders file. And what comes out is a history of value. So what that means is you're going to write a function, and one of the arguments to that function is going to be the name of a file. You shouldn't hard code anything about relative directories and so on. You should just directly take that file name and read it in. You are allowed, in this case, to use the pandas read CSV function, and we will provide you a template that uses that and reads it in correctly. So don't muck around, don't hard code in a file name or whatever. Your function should directly take the name of a file Don't worry about whether it's CSV or TXT. Just take in the name, read the data in, then operate on it, and I'm going to talk about how to operate on it. And your function should return a pandas data frame that that's indexed by dates and whose data column includes the value of the portfolio. Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna cover big picture how to conduct that computation. Let's look first for a moment at what's in this orders.csv file. And on the wiki, there are specific examples. And I'm going to move this a little bit so I can see it better. So this file is a set of rows where each row specifies a date, comma, the symbol that you're trading, the order, whether it's a buy or a sell, and the number of shares that you want to trade. So I got a specific example here. I don't want to copy it down so I get it correctly. To avoid having to go back and forth so many times, I'm gonna make a little bit of this up so it may differ from what you see on the wiki. But the dates are all of the format year, hyphen, month, day, and it's trivial to read that in as a date-time object from a CSV. Symbols are just our 3 or 4 letter symbols that we've been using. The order can be a buy or sell. So here's an order. Now it's going to be your job as the simulating the market to essentially execute that order and take care of the accounting to track the value of the portfolio once that order is executed. There will be other orders at other days, so let's put in another order. And I'm going to simplify this to be 100, so my math will be easier later. Okay, my second order has a day later. Symbol is IBM, sell 100. Now, does anybody have any questions about that? Does it seem weird?
We have a request to zoom in the camera on the whiteboard.
Let me see what it looks like. Okay, I'll do that. Should I risk my laptop on this? No. Okay, thanks. So the request was to zoom in on the whiteboard. Okay, is that a problem for anybody?
How can you sell before you actually buy?
How can you sell before you buy? It's the magic of shorting. So if you issue a sell order and you don't own it, that's equivalent to shorting. And we'll talk about the underlying math for this project in a second. Way in the back. These are good questions. So for those in TV land, the question is, are they market orders or limit orders? There is special sort of Balch order. Sorry, okay. What they are, what kind of order? Sorry, I'm writing it small here. The answer is they are market on close orders, which means you get the adjusted close price for that day. So all of the stuff that we're going to do for this assignment, and actually for the others, are assuming adjusted close prices. Now, if you look at the data that you have, the stock price data, you'll see that there are closing prices and adjusted closing prices. And the difference between those two, we're actually going to talk about in a later section. For now, the important thing to remember is use only adjusted close. But the other closing prices are the prices that on that date the market actually closed at. The adjusted ones are adjusted so that it makes our math easier at this time to calculate the increase or decrease in value of the stock if we'd held it and reinvested the dividends. But anyways, a good question, and we will always assume that we're using market on close prices. Any other questions? Any questions from Piazza Land? Nope. Is everybody happy? Okay. I'll put one more order up here just for discussion purposes. So it's an additional order where we sell the shares of Apple that we had bought earlier. Okay. Now this is an example of your input. And what we want you to output is a history of the value of our portfolio over time. Now, a piece of information that you're missing that we will provide is there's another piece of data coming in, which is initial cash. So what will happen over time is the initial value of your portfolio is this initial cash, and then we'll go step by step and execute these orders and track the value of the portfolio over time, and it'll change plus or minus that initial cash value. Okay, Dave, pipe up if I get out of line. Okay, if I forget anything. If I end up forgetting anything, it's Dave's fault. Okay. Oh, by the way, who watched the debate last night? Who thinks Hillary won? Who thinks Trump won? Okay. So just for the record, most people thought Hillary won. A few people thought Trump won. I take no position. Not allowed. Neither can I comment on evolution or birth control. But anyways, okay, back to the subject at hand. In terms of this history, you need to provide a history for every trading day between the first day and the last day of trading, inclusive. Okay? Dave, that's correct, right? Okay. So the way you can discover how big this history needs to be is you can scan this file, read it in, find the first day and the last day, and you know then, okay, I have to fill out a data frame that has all those days. Well, there's actually a pretty easy way to do that, and I'll show you in just a second. Okay, I'm going to scoot everything sideways a little bit. Okay. Step one. So these are my recommendations, okay? People, it's totally okay to deviate from this structure. In fact, I expect a number of you will, that's fine, but make sure you understand sort of this basic idea before you go forward with that, okay? Anyways, read in a data frame I'll call prices. So we've provided you already a method that if you give it the symbols and a start date and an end date, it'll read in this data for you from the set of CSV files that we've provided. So if you do that, so you need to scan this orders file, and by the way, you can read this orders file into a data frame as well, and then conduct these operations fairly easily. But anyways, you want to get the list of what are the symbols in this file, and what's the earliest date, and what's the last date. Okay. Once you have that information, you can call get data, and it'll create a data frame for you that includes every single trading day between this and that, and it'll fill in the columns of what the closing prices were for those stocks for those days. So we'll assume that our first date here is 2008, 8/1, and I might need a little more room here. So we've got date, that's our index, and then we've got values for Apple and IBM. And I want you to add, after you read this data in, I want you to add one more column here at the end. We'll call it cash. And you'll see, so I see there's a reflection there. I'm going to move this a little bit. I don't know if that makes it, okay. I think it'll be easier if I elevate this. Give me a second. Okay, that eliminates the reflection issue. Okay, so when you read it, you'll get two columns. I want you to add this additional column, cash. And what's in these columns is the adjusted close for the relevant days for these stocks. And I'll go ahead and fill in the last day here. So we've got rows and columns. And for simplicity, I'm going to fill this in not with real prices, but with prices that are convenient for me to do math with. And I'll put in another reference date here, which is 2008-82. So let's say that Apple on this day closed at 100. On this day, it again closed at 100. And somewhere along here, let's say it went up to 120, continued to be 120, and eventually closed at, let's say 130 on that final day. And I'll give similar prices to IBM. Let's say it was at $100 here. Let's say 110 on this day. Let's say it remained at 110. I'm just making these prices up. And let's say it eventually closed at 90. Okay. Now, we have also this potential asset called cash. What do you think? I mean, you have no way of knowing, but let me just throw it out there. What do you think the value of one share of cash ought to be?
30 cents.
30 cents? So we're talking about $1980?
No, we're talking about November the 9th.
Oh,
The election.
okay, all right. Okay, Pat's being obnoxious. Okay, any other guesses? Okay, the answer is 1. So we're going to use this column of cash. You'll see in a moment why it's useful to have that column. But we're going to use that column of cash because it's convenient. But it's also convenient to always assume that the value of one share of cash is $1. So that's that answer. Okay. So this is just a data frame called prices. Now note that once you've read this in, I'm going to shift a little bit. Once you've read this in, you conveniently now have a data frame that has a row for each date that you need to attend to. And it turns out it also has a column for each value you're going to eventually need to account for. So let's take advantage of that and make a copy of it. And I'm going to call this now the trades data frame. So we create this by copy. Okay, so what this data frame represents is anytime the number of shares of any of these assets changes, this should log that change. So if we buy 100 shares of something, well, let's say we buy 100 shares of Apple. In the Apple column, we should see a plus 100 on again, we're just copying directly. So on this date, and I'll skip filling in the details, but each time the number of shares that we're holding changes, we log that change here. Now, so let me finish talking about what the meaning of this data frame is, and then I'll talk about how to build it. So we should only see changes here, or we should only see numbers here when that actually changes. So that means we should only see a plus 100 here when we buy Apple, and on that very last day we sell Apple, so we should see a minus 100 here, and all other rows should be 0. So again, this is just indicating changes in those values. Now, how to build, does everybody understand that? Let me pause for a second, see if anybody's got a question. Okay. How to build that, first step is just fill the whole thing with zeros, right? So you copied it over. You don't want to fill the dates in with zeros, but you want to fill in all these columns with zeros. Fill it with zeros, and then populate it step by step. Okay, here's how to populate it. Come back to your orders file and just step through it one at a time. So, first entry on our orders file is buy 100 shares of Apple. So I've already filled that part in here. I left out one part though. Does anybody, can anybody guess what that is? Pat?
You've got to sell, multiply the shares by -1.
Well, I lose cash if I buy shares, right? So don't forget our cash column here. And of course, my data frame is too skinny. So my cash column on that particular row should be negative to represent that I'm spending dollars to buy those shares. Now, what should the value be here? Not just the number, but how do I calculate what number should be there? Okay, Pat doesn't get to answer. Let me frame the question a different way. On August 1st, 2008, how much did 100 shares of Apple cost?
100 times adjusted price.
Right. It's this times this, right? Multiplied goes here. Okay. Yeah.
You multiply that by -1.
You're correct. -1. Okay. So pay attention because for the next one, I'm going to ask the member of the audience who seems to be paying the least attention. And it's not Pat, by the way. Okay. All right, so that is what? Negative 10,000, right? Okay, next. My next order, so I just totally skip everything. It doesn't, well, it turns out that the next one is the very next day, but let's suppose we went for some number of days without trading. Anyways, we look at the next row in our orders file, and kaboom, it's sell 100 shares of IBM. So we have a negative 100 here, and we already had a 0 there. Okay, that guy looks to be paying the least attention. Mr. Abercrombie. What is the value that goes here? Okay, does anybody want to help him? Who is the, okay, you're not paying attention. Yeah, what value goes there?
That would be the current adjusted close of that stock
Okay,
into plus one because you're selling it, so you're getting money, and plus the previous cash.
no, it's just change in cash. But you get points for appearing not to pay attention while actually paying attention. If we're just looking at change in cash, what number do you think should go there?
Then it's just the plus one into the value of registered close times 100.
So number of shares plus the price on that day.
Multiplied by
Right. Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay, maybe too small for you to see. Anyways, that's 11,000. But because you shorted, you get cash, right? And how much cash do we get? You still have to answer. You're still on the hook. Yeah.
let's say what is the adjusted close? 11,000.
Okay. Mr. Abercrombie, you're next. By the way, just alerting you. Okay. Next question I ask is going to be for you. Okay. All right. Okay. On the following day, actually, I'm going to ask somebody else. Okay. It seems like everybody's paying attention now. Okay, it's working. Okay. On the following day, what goes here for IBM on August 3rd, 2008? Anybody hazard a guess? Come on. 0, yeah. Okay, was that a trick question? All right. Did my cash change at all? How about on August 4th? Okay, it's all 0. There's no nothing going on until August 10th. Okay, so let's look at August 10th. Mr. Abercrombie, time to renew your reputation. Okay. All right, so August 10th, we're doing something with Apple. We're selling 100 shares. So what goes here? Huh? Yes. Okay. And what goes here? How much does their cash change if we sell 100 shares? And here's a hint. Okay, it's 130. Huh? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Multiply them, okay. All right, who can multiply 100 times 130? Okay, 13,000. And is it a plus 13,000 or a minus 13,000? Right. Okay, so now we have a what I'm calling a trades data frame. I'll fill in some more zeros here. That represents on each day how much did the value of that asset change. We haven't said what the total number is on any particular day. This is just the changes, and we built that from our orders file. Okay, so the next data frame we're going to build is going to be to let me position the camera here. I'm going to call this holdings. And what that represents is on each day, how much of each individual asset was I holding. Now, an important part of this is, and let me relabel this a little bit. So we've got date, which I'm going to skip writing, Apple, IBM, and cash. Okay, an important part of this data frame is the first row on the first day. So essentially initialize this with all zeros, except we're alerted as to how much cash we have on the first day. And that's part of the defined API, tells you what your starting cash is. So this is starting cash. And also of that first day, you don't hold, you're not holding any stocks. All you've got is that cash, okay? And this one, again, the way we create that initially is just by a copy. But we initialize it by filling it with zeros and adding the cash here at the top. Is everybody following that? Okay, let's say the cash we start with is 15,000. I know it's going to be hard to see in the back. I'll write 15,000 here. Okay. Now, we've got this initialized, all zeros except for 15,000 there. What do people think what's the first step? What do I do next to begin filling this in? And I'll say again, what I want this to represent is, I want it to be filled in with values so that at the end, on any particular day, I can see how many shares of each asset I own and how much cash I have. Yeah?
For each day, you combine the previous day and that current day from trades.
Right. Now, this first day is a little bit special in that regard. And there's a couple, there's different ways you can handle it. You could pretend that, excuse me, there's like one day before that's not part of your data frame. But let me restate what he said. for each day in your trades data frame, you combine the day before plus the current day for the trades file. So treating this first day a little bit special, we'll do the first day. So first day for Apple is we get 100 shares. So we add that to the day before, which was 0, so it's 100 shares. IBM, nothing changes, it's still 0. Cash, we had 15,000 the day before, but we lost 10,000 because we invested that in IBM. So that changes this to be only 5,000. So after processing this first row, we've got August 1st, 2008, 100 shares of Apple, 0 of IBM, and 5,000 cash. Okay. Now I'm going to pick somebody to tell me what the second row should be. Who wants me not to pick them? Okay. All right. I will pick Mr. Abercrombie again. What should be here for Apple? The second day. So the first day, it was 100. We bought 100 shares, so we own 100 shares. On the second day, there are no trades with Apple. So how many shares of Apple would I be holding? That's right. What about IBM? Minus 100, because we shorted. Okay, and what should our cash be? So we had, on this day, 5,000, the day before. We sold 100 shares of IBM and got $1,000. So how much cash then would we have on this day? 16,000, that's right. Okay, good job. Anyways, we just repeat that. We take, each day we take the corresponding row in our trades data frame. We add it to the day before in our holdings, and that is then the next row. Okay, what's you, Mr. Paying attention there? What should our row be here? What on the next day? What's Apple?
It would be the same row, negative 100 and 16,000.
100, negative 100. Whoops. And 16,000. Okay, in fact, it's going to be exactly the same all the way until this last day, right? So just before the last day, we'll have 100, negative 100, 16,000, and then on the very last day, we sell 100 shares of Apple, and we get $13,000. So on this very last day of our holdings, we have 0 shares of Apple. We still have negative 100 shares of IBM, and we get 13,000. So now we have 19,000. Oh, I'm sorry, 29,000. Who corrected me? All right, extra points. Okay. All right, that's pretty incredible. We started with only 10,000. I'm sorry, we started with $15,000, and we ended up with 29,000. That's pretty remarkable. We owe somebody something. What do we owe them? Huh?
We owe them 100 IBM.
Yeah, right. And what's that worth?
$9.
Yeah, right. Anyways, yes. So the value of your portfolio isn't just how much cash you've got. It's affected also by the value of the shares that you hold. Does everybody follow that? Okay. So now we have an account. So what this project really is accounting, right? You all are probably thinking, hey, I'm not getting a degree in accounting, but sorry, you have to bear with a little bit of accounting here because that ends up to be a big portion of what trading is about. Anyways, the value of your portfolio on any particular day is a combination of the value of the shares that you hold and the cash that you hold. Okay, I'm gonna move over one more. Any questions from TV land? Nope. All right. Let's make sure we can see that. Okay, I'm going to call this last data frame values. And again, we initialize that data frame by copying from the previous one because it's already got the dimension that we want, right? It's got and in the end, we want to calculate the value for each day. So if we make that copy, again, we get a row for each day and a column for each asset. And what we want this data frame to represent is, instead of each column representing the number of shares of the asset that we hold, we want it to represent the value in dollars of the asset. Now, who can tell me a one-liner? Who can complete the sentence? It says values equals something times something. And remember, in Pandas, I see you. I want to see if there's any other brave souls. In Pandas, asterisk is a cell by cell multiplication. Who's going to be brave? Okay, I promise I won't. If you answer, I won't call on you for 3 weeks. Come on, somebody can do it. Yes?
Prices times holdings.
Yes! In TV land, prices times holdings. So what that means is, on this day, we're converting 100 shares of Apple into 100 times $100. So we get 10,000 here. Now, conveniently, we've decided that $1 is worth $1. So this column is pre-filled with ones. So when we do this multiplication, we're just multiplying 1 times what this column is. So that ends up being 5,000 over here. So we got Apple, IBM, and cash. And on this day, so I don't have enough space. On this day, we've got 0 IBM. But anyways, each row is filled in accordingly and we'll just skip to this last row. For this last row, we've got Okay, we're back. Okay, we'll see if this works. Okay, where we were. We wanted to calculate the value of each asset on each day, and the simple answer is it's prices times holdings. That will fill in every single day what the, if we had shares, it converts it into dollars. When we have dollars, because they're already initialized as ones, it stays dollars. And I'll skip down here to the end. On this last day, we have minus 100 shares of IBM. And on that day, IBM was valued at 90. So we have minus 9,000 in IBM on that day. But plus 29,000. Let's see, am I doing this right? Prices times holdings. Yeah. Minus 9,000 and okay, yeah, that's right. And 29,000 here. Okay, so that's how, Dave, make sure I'm not lying here.
No, that's right. And then you just need to sum across to get your portfolio balance.
Okay. Okay. The output, what we're supposed to finally provide is day by day, what's the total value of our portfolio, right? So on this day, how could we compute the value of our portfolio for that day? Add the columns. So this plus this plus this, it's $15,000. Now, one thing to note is the first, no matter what you buy or sell on the first day, this value should always be equal to your starting cash, because you're exactly trading your cash for the value at the close of market that day. So this always ends up being essentially what your starting cash is. Anyways, each day is simply the sum of these. So this is essentially computed by sum, and axis equals what? Is it 0? Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it less than 2? Okay, yes, it's less than 2. Okay. What would it mean if I were to say sum axis equals 0? I hear some answers over here. Come on, you don't get called on for 3 weeks if you answer. Okay, Dave, you can do it. Except no, we'll call on you, so never mind. Okay, axis 0 is by row, right? Axis 1 is by across the columns, so the answer here is 1. And then you will simply get a single column data frame where the value is the sum of those columns. And in this case, it's $20,000 on that last day. So through clever trading, we made $5,000. I believe that's correct. Okay, that's it. There's more coming, but any questions on that? Yes?
Can there be a scenario when the cache column is not one?
Over here.
Yeah.
So the question is, can there be a situation where the cache column is not one? Not for this assignment. He's going to miss this secret. Anyways, it's his choice. Anyways, not for this assignment, but a situation where that might make sense is, let's say you were working with foreign exchange, trading currencies or something. That might not necessarily be one, but for the purposes of this assignment, assume it's always one. Any questions from TV land? Okay. Are there any complaints about the stream getting interrupted?
There were,
But now they're seeing it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good, okay. She's gonna miss the secret too. Okay, yeah?
How do you go from the orders file to the trades file without a for loop?
So the question is, how do you go from the orders file to the trades file without a for loop? And the answer is, I don't think you can. I think you have to do a for loop for this. So yeah, my mantra all semester has been, no for loop, no for loop, no for loop. And especially the way, except for that first step, you can do it without for loops, but that first step, indeed, you're going to need a for loop. Any other questions? Okay, does anybody else want to leave before I give away the secret? Okay, here is the secret. On that date, which is June 15, 2011, ignore all orders. If your code, Dave is trying to think, how am I going to implement this? Okay, if we're going to give you a test case when we actually grade this with an order on that date. And if you execute that order, you don't get the secret point. If you don't execute that order, you do get the secret point. And that is your extra benefit for coming to class in person or bearing through my video. There's one more little secret that I'll tell you, but I'm going to tell that at the very end. So you're going to have to sit through the drudgery all the way to the very end to get the final secret. But okay, any questions so far? Yeah.
Why that date? Was there a special occasion on the date?
It's my wife's birthday. But she wasn't born that year. Okay. Let's make sure the camera is showing this. I'll leave that for a little while.
Will the auto grader take that into account, or only on? So
the Buffett auto grader, the test cases will test on Buffett won't check that. It'll only be the final auto grader when you hand it in.
So if we implement that, the auto grader might show that we're down a point because we missed the trade on that date.
The test cases that we'll give you, we'll adjust them so that there's no trades on that date. There may be holdings on that date, but we'll make sure there's no trades on that date, except for the final secret holdout test case when you actually turn your code in. And this is the last it will be mentioned. Okay. Okay. 7 minutes. Okay. Important topic here for the last 7 minutes. Leverage. And remember, there's one more secret, so you should hang around. Pat, what's leverage?
Well, I do this all the time. It's an account that allows you to borrow from a broker.
Pat said it's an account that lets you borrow from a broker. Yes, so in order to use leverage, you need to be able to borrow. But you're not always using leverage just because you can. Anyways, here's a intuitive definition of leverage. It is how much you've got invested in the market divided by the liquidation value of your account. So put another way, brokers will allow you can deposit $100,000 if you have $100,000. You can deposit $100,000 in Interactive Brokers and then proceed to buy $700,000 worth of stock. And in fact, if you are Goldman Sachs, back in 2008, you could buy $3 million of stocks after having only deposited $100,000. Now, that's crazy, right? Okay, but anyways, it is fairly common, in fact, just standard, that you can deposit $100,000 and then buy $200,000 worth of stock. That's anybody can do that. The broker is taking a little bit of a risk on you in that case, but they consider it not to be that risky because they can look at your account and see, oh, he's got $200,000 worth of IBM. IBM is not going to go to zero tomorrow. We know where he lives. We can collect those dollars that we lent him. Yeah.
Why can't we just do an equity swap?
Say it again.
Why can't we just trade instead of buying the stock, do an equity swap?
I think maybe you're saying, okay, here's something you could do, and I'll show you why your broker won't let you do it. But let's suppose we have $0 in our account, and we short $100,000 of IBM. What do we have after that? Well, let's say IBM is selling at $100, right? So if we short $100,000 worth of IBM, we have negative 1,000 IBM, right? But we have suddenly $100,000 in cash. So poof, out of nothing, we created $100,000. We could then proceed to spend our $100,000 on Google. And now we've got $100,000 worth of Google, zero cash, but we are short IBM. Now, sounds a little bit sketchy, right? Indeed, it is sketchy. Here is the equation that your broker uses to prevent you from doing it, okay? So I'm going to define leverage as the sum of the absolute value of your investments so note, it's absolute value, which means if you're short, this turns out to be a positive number, divided by the sum of your investments plus cash. So this is the value of your portfolio if you liquidated it. This is how much long or short you've got in the market. And the typical broker requirement is that this value must be less than or equal to 2.0. If you go over that, they will, without telling you, liquidate some of your positions. They'll sell your IBM or force you to buy back your shorts or whatever, but they will not, at the end of market close, they won't let you exceed that value. But what that means is essentially you can deposit $100,000, borrow another $100,000, and buy $200,000 worth of stock. Okay, before I let you go, I have 2 minutes. Here is the last secret. Previous versions of this project have stated that if a trade causes your leverage to exceed 2.0, you have to discard that trade. We're changing it for this project to be 3.0. And that actually is published on the wiki. But you know what? The people who copy last semester's solutions will still be checking for 2.0. And we're going to throw in a trade that causes 2.5 leverage that should go through. And because all of you know it should really be 3, you'll sail through no problem. The people who copied somebody else's code from last semester will explode and will cause us to apply additional scrutiny to their submission. Any questions? Does that make sense, Dave? Okay, yes?
The leverage that it's basically money that is borrowed from our broker. So is there an interest or a commission on that?
So the question is there, when you borrow this money, is there an interest or commission? Yes, we're ignoring that for the purpose of this class, but there are 2 ways that you incur, multiple ways you might incur interest. One is if you short a stock, you actually have to pay interest on the value of the stock that you shorted. And if you borrow money to buy more stock, you have to pay interest on that borrowed money. Anyways, that's it for today. Thanks for paying attention. And to those of you who I picked on, good job. Please come back again. I'll cut you some slack next time, but you all were good sports. Okay, see you next time. Bye-bye.